Hi all, welcome to my channel, TheRelevanceLab. Many people who plan to get into cybersecurity reach out to me and ask which domain is good for freshers or fresh graduates. So should I do SOC or should I get into GRC or risk management or should I get into IAM, etc. Then there are these young professionals who ask which certification should I do to move into a particular role, or should I learn this new tool to go into this role, etc. While both of these questions individually are great, one thing what I learned during both of these conversations as conversations progressed was that they are not clear and lack an understanding of enterprise cybersecurity. So aspiring cyber professionals are learning cybersecurity backwards, meaning they learn GRC as one topic, risk management as one topic, IAM as one topic, etc. So you can see that each of these topics is isolated and they don't know how it all works together in an enterprise cybersecurity. And one of the biggest mistakes young cyber professionals do is thinking that their job is to close the alert or escalate the alert and their job is done. So in fact, that is one of the easiest parts to do, escalating the alert or closing the alert. But what really is important is to understand how that alert connects to people, processes, risk, compliance, and business operations. That's what enterprise cybersecurity is all about. So if you are just starting out in cybersecurity, or you are a young professional, or if you have not been able to connect the dots, watch the video till the end. This will change the way you look at enterprise cybersecurity. So in this video, I will break down the different domains and show how they work together to protect an organization or a business. So let's get started. So every enterprise, no matter how big or small, starts with people, right? Real humans who are walking in every morning and logging in and doing their jobs. Now, these people obviously don't sit in one big room doing the same thing. So they will be divided into different departments or business units, right? Like HR, software, IT, R&D, etc. Now, to do anything meaningful, they would require infrastructure. So it could be laptops, it could be mobiles, cloud, printers, and so on. Now, my question to you is, can a HR user access the IT team server? The answer is a big no. Obviously, because of confidentiality, integrity reasons. So now this is where the access control or the IAM, PAM sort of technology or domain kicks in. Now, do you think any user can install any application on his office machine or mobile? Assuming that you have got the right access, you are the right user, can you still install any application? Again, it's a no. Why? Because it's risk, right? So anything unknown is risk, right? So we don't know whether that application is malicious or not, right? So that's how risk management comes into the picture. Now, I'm not going into the details, like there are again a lot of third-party risk management, then there's supply chain risk management and so on and so forth, but I'm not going to that. So I'm just giving you a high-level overview of the different domains and how they connect in an enterprise cybersecurity. Now, another question which arises is, does all your infrastructure sit in the same single network? You might be thinking, yes, one network, one company should be sitting, but no. If everything, your HR laptops, your R&D, your software, guest Wi-Fi, everything sits on one network and one laptop or a system gets compromised, then that becomes a major issue because it could affect your entire network. So that's where your network security comes into the picture, right? So you have your different VLANs, different segmentations, you do network segmentations, right? So that's why you have your firewalls, you have your zones, right? Making sure that fire in one room doesn't burn down the entire building. Now, people have access, they have infrastructure, they have the approved apps, but sometimes it might so happen that an employee, either accidentally or intentionally, he might send confidential data outside company network. So now, how to stop this? This is where DLP comes into the picture. Data loss prevention, it monitors, it flags, sometimes it blocks outright. Right? Now, looking at the departments, now there might be a software department, software engineering department, which might be developing web applications, mobile applications, right? So, do you think as soon as the application is ready, it's put into production, or as soon as a website is live, it's put into production? No, that's where your software development lifecycle or when secure by design, that sort of concepts come into the picture. So before anything is rolled out into production, there would be a pen testing of that websites, pen testing, that vulnerability management lifecycle would have been done, vulnerability assessments of that applications would have been done, right? Again, it would talk to risk management. So what is the risk? What is happening? So they will do a lot of static application security testing, dynamic application security testing, and so on and so forth, right? Now, once the applications is developed, it won't sit idle, right? It will start collecting data. Definitely some customer data would come in, your internal data would flow into that application, right, to different servers. And that's where it leads to regulatory or legal requirements. Now, once that is done, this is where your compliance and data privacy domains kick in. So it would, they would ask, the compliance teams would ask, are we compliant to this act? Are we, data privacy would ask, are we storing the data properly? Is there any risk? Is the data getting leaked? What sort of data are we storing? Would we be compliant to GDPR or HIPAA, etc.? Right? So this is where these two domains or these two things come into the picture. Now, with so much of infrastructure, so much of things in place, how do you know what's happening or what's within your network, across your network? How do you get that visibility? Which machine has a malware attack, or who clicked on a phishing link, or was there any data exfiltration using your cloud? So this is where your security operations team containing the SIM, that comes into the picture, right? So SIM is basically collects all the logs, all the data sources are pulled and all the logs are pulled into the SIM, pushed into the SIM. So this is where again there are different domains like incident response, digital forensics, right, which come into the picture. If there is an incident, that's the firefighting. Then digital forensics does the post-mortem of your thing, what really happened. Then cyber threat intel. So these are made to look at a strategic angle, whether what is the long-term cyber risk based on geopolitical stuff or attacker motivations, threat trends, and so on and so forth. Then there is this thing called cybersecurity awareness as well. Now, many people think, why is it there in the company? Now, as I mentioned, not all people who are working in an organization are cybersecurity professionals. So they are from HR, they are from finance. Their specialization is not cybersecurity. So they need to be trained to identify a phishing mail or how to spot something suspicious going on in their machine and so on and so forth. So this is where this different 5 things come into the picture. Now, all this is fine, but can somebody just barge into your office physically? No, that's where physical security comes into the picture. So you have your swipe card machines, right? Where you swipe the badge, right? You have your security guards, you have the bollards, and so on and so forth. So that's not done just by that; it's done by design, right? And lastly, we are people, right? And people need to be regulated. So otherwise, people can do anything what they want. So that's where you have acceptable use policies, code of conduct, internet usage, how to use internet on your company laptop. What are HR policies? There are a lot of policies, right? And this is where your governance comes into the picture. So governance also covers a lot of business continuity related or disaster recovery related policies, right? So that also is another thing which you need to be aware of. So this is how all the different domains are working in an enterprise cybersecurity. I know there are a lot of other small domains or small things which go into much deeper level. Like you can talk about zero trust, then that's where it comes into, again, it falls into the network security or like segmentation, don't trust, always verify, that sort of things. But on a higher level, this is where I wanted to show you how all these things connect. Now, let's make this real. Let's take a small scenario and see how many domains it actually touches. Now, say for example, a malware alert fires on a SIM. So it's flagged on a laptop which belongs to someone, say in the finance team. So now, like most analysts know exactly what to do here, right? You'll check the hash, you'll probably isolate the endpoint, you will run the scan and probably close the ticket if there's something found or whatever, depending on your internal standard operating procedures, either escalate or close the ticket. But this is where I want us to begin. So first, look at network security. So because this laptop was sitting on a properly segmented finance network, probably the malware didn't spread sideways into HR or R&D. Right? That's not luck. That's by design. That's why you do that network security segmentation. Next, let's look at the IAM part of it. Now, if you really look at it, the question isn't about malware. It's about the user. So did this finance employee have some admin rights that they never needed? Was it a privileged account sitting on that machine? Right? Now, while that is being checked, risk management is already calculating something different. So they are looking at, did this finance system have banking details, payroll data, vendor records? What is it? So how bad is it exactly, right? So they are mapping the exposure, how bad it is. Now, if somebody pulls up the last vulnerability assessment report or a pen testing report of this system, then another question arises. Was there any vulnerability which was already flagged on this system, right? And never fixed? Or is it a new vulnerability which was exploited? Now, while that is happening, DLP logs might be checked in parallel. So did any data leave the network before this detection happened, right? So that one answer basically will decide if it is more like an internal incident or it becomes a data breach, right? Now, this is where DFIR, that is digital forensics or incident response, or those teams come in to rebuild the timeline. So they are like the post-mortem guys, right? So they will start looking into how did it get in? How did the malware get in? Was it a phishing email? Was it a USB device? How long was it sitting? Right? So on and so forth. Now, another thing which happens is at the governance level, they would be looking at and asking some of the different sort of questions. So they will ask, was there a policy that should have prevented this? Or did this finance team even receive security awareness training? or is he a repeat offender? Is this guy a repeat offender, or is this person a repeat offender, right? And if during the course of the investigation, if it comes out, like if a personal or a financial data was touched or exfiltrated, now the GRC and the compliance teams have to decide something much bigger. Now, does this require a regulatory disclosure? So if you are dealing with certain strict frameworks like finance and healthcare, so a regulatory disclosure is imminent. So does the legal team needs to get involved, right? So these are the questions which will trigger in the background just because of one malware alert. So as you can see, it touched so many domains all within probably the first few hours. So this is where I wanted to give you an understanding. So the analyst who does the triage sees one incident or one alert, right? So the professional who understands enterprise cybersecurity sees the entire sort of chain reaction. And that is the difference between you becoming a good analyst versus a great analyst. Cool. That's it. Thanks for watching. Stay relevant, stay ahead.